think of a progressive woke city. Okay, now think of a city even more progressive and more woke. Okay, now that you have that city, think of a city even more progressive and more woke. And why are we all thinking about Portland? Because I think that's where we all end up. If we go through the myriad of woke cities, you ultimately end up at the wokest, most progressive city of Portland. Now, sometimes it's difficult to find specifics in how woke and progressive things have gotten other than the videos on the streets. We all saw Antifa just riot throughout Portland for 100 days straight, multiple times. We've seen the homeless encampments on the street. We've seen all of that. All of that stuff makes perfect sense to us, but putting a tangible figure to something often helps really contextualize what's going on. And that's what's happening with Portland's biggest, largest, and probably most expensive building in town. The US Bank Corp building in Portland was recently evacuated by its biggest tenant, a company called Digital Trends. Now, part of Digital Trends leaving this big building, they said this: the city was afflicted with vagrants sleeping in the hallways on vacant floors. They were also starting fires in the stairwells, smoking fentanyl and defecating in common areas, according to the company who filed a lawsuit against the building. Now, the specifics of what the price of this building is actually gives us a tangible relative scale of how bad things have gotten. The building in 2015 sold for $372.5 million. Today, that same building in Portland, a real estate opportunity which usually appreciates in value, is now for sale for $70 million, and the group that owns it cannot sell it. In other words, that is an 80% drop in the valuation of this big, huge building in Portland, which the tenants in the building, what are left of them, are saying the reason we're getting out of this area is because of the way the city is governed. So it is a tangible marker on how bad things are and can get. Here to comment on that and so much more is political commentator and pop culture commentator April Silverman and host of The Last Call on Real America's Voice, Mike Crispy. Guys, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
April, I want to start with you here. This isn't surprising, but it is a tangible factor. Oftentimes it's like, you get to see pictures. Oh, San Francisco is gross. Portland is gross. Yes, we all agree with that, but it's difficult to put a number to things, and this is actually a number. Building price dropped 80%. Why does it seem that Portland isn't reforming and hopefully getting their city back on the right straits? And why are blue cities not just ponying up and getting rid of the homeless problem?
Because they're choosing like ideology over reality, and they're calling it a housing crisis when really it's the homeless industrial complex that's just funneling money over and over again, building housing and getting help for them that they're not accepting. The homeless are not accepting the help because no one is enforcing them to get off the streets. So they're literally making those their tarp and their like tents into hot boxes for their drug use. And there's literally needles everywhere, and there's just no accountability and no enforcement. So why wouldn't they just do whatever they want if no one's telling them what to do? And they get plenty of benefits. So everyone wants to come on down to Portland because why not? They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, it's honestly it's sad to see, but also just totally predictable. Mike, you're a financial guy. $70 million for this building that was once sold for $370 million. 80% discount. This is a good investment for anybody looking to buy some real estate in the Portland area.
What a shock that a building will go down that's surrounded by a bunch of crackheads who are shooting up and defecating all over people. It's not good if you have a place of work and you want to boost morale and you got to step over a body that's convulsing from a drug overdose on the pavement. Not so good for business productivity. So I'm not surprised that they left. But here's the thing. I don't think it's a good investment. You know why? Because it might as well be worth zero, because these cities have proven for generations that they're not going to change. These are third world liberal hellscapes that, again, if you're not going to change it now, when are you ever going to hit that breaking point? Portland, Oregon is a city that will crumble to the ground and hit zero before it ever gets better. I don't see the voters who supported the autonomous chop and chaz zone ever getting it together if they didn't get it together back then. So I would say Zero. Sorry to say it. It's worth zero.
Yeah, I wouldn't put my money there either. I will say though about Portland, great coffee. If you want a they them with lots of dyed hair and ear piercings, that's who makes really fantastic coffee.
True.
Other than that, I'd stay away from Portland.